The great chamber of the Galactic Council stood silent. Normally, it was a place of noise, of proud voices, of endless debates, of leaders boasting about their fleets and wealth. But on this day, no one spoke. The chamber's massive star map glowed above them, showing a galaxy covered in red sparks. Each spark meant a burning world. Each flicker meant death. One by one, colonies vanished into silence. Reports had come in all week. Entire civilizations erased in hours. Ocean worlds boiled dry. Desert cities swallowed by fire. Mining moons shattered into dust. And yet, the council sat still. A cry for help in the center of the chamber. A young envoy stepped forward. Her voice trembled, but she forced it out, letting it echo against the high walls. "Honored counselors," she said, "my people cry for help. Our colonies are burning. Our fleets are gone. If you do not act, my people will vanish." She looked around the table. Dozens of alien leaders stared back at her. Some looked away. Some lowered their heads. Others narrowed their eyes, cold and calculating. One insectoid counselor clicked his mandibles. "We do not yet know who attacks. If we fight blindly, we may invite destruction on ourselves." A scaled alien hissed in reply. "We know enough. We know the enemy kills without mercy." "And still you wait?" The young envoy's voice broke. "Wait, while billions die?" She pointed up at the star map, at the red sparks multiplying with every passing hour. "Every day we wait, more voices go silent. You are leaders of great fleets. Why do you sit here in silence?" No one answered. Fear in the chamber grew heavier with every passing second. Some counselors shifted in their seats, ashamed but too weak to speak. Others stared coldly, their fear hidden behind empty words. Finally, a robed alien with silver eyes spoke. "If we fight this enemy, they will turn on us. Better to remain silent. Better to let others fall first." The envoy froze, her chest tightening. She could not believe what she was hearing. You would watch entire species vanish just to save yourselves. The silence that followed was her answer. The question, her voice, dropped to a whisper. But it carried across the chamber like thunder. "Where are the humans?" The chamber stirred. Heads turned. Some counselors scoffed. Others frowned. The word human was one they did not like to hear. Long ago, humanity had been bold. They had fought wars no one else dared to fight. They had built fleets larger than empires. They had promised to defend the weak. And then, they vanished. Earth fell silent. Their fleets disappeared. Their voice faded from the council until they were nothing but rumor and myth. Some believed they had destroyed themselves. Others thought they had hidden away. A few whispered that humanity was waiting for something. Humans. One counselor laughed bitterly. "They are gone. Ghosts of a reckless past." But another leaned forward, his voice low and uneasy. "Or perhaps they are not gone. Perhaps they are watching." The envoy's hand shook. If humanity still lives, they would not sit in silence while the galaxy burns. The chamber returned to its frozen state. No one answered her. The flicker then. The lights dimmed. The star map shuddered. A low hum filled the chamber. Guards shouted warnings. Unknown transmission. System breach. The table glowed, flickering with static. For a moment, it seemed like nothing but broken code. Then, a shape appeared. A sphere of blue and green light. Gasps echoed. Some counselors rose to their feet. It was Earth. The planet long thought dead filled the chamber in holographic light. Across its orbit, faint outlines appeared, giant silhouettes of unfinished ships. The envoy's eyes widened. Her breath caught in her throat. The chamber erupted in noise. Impossible. They were gone. No, they were building. The voice through the static, a voice cut like a blade. Deep, calm, human. "This is Earth Command." Transmission locked. The chamber fell silent again. Dozens of alien leaders leaned forward, their faces pale. The voice continued. "Council, we know." Gasps filled the air. One counselor slammed his claws against the table. Another hissed in disbelief, and then the hologram sharpened. A human figure appeared, an officer in dark uniform, standing tall, eyes hard as stone. "You let worlds burn," he said. His voice carried no fear. "We will not." The hologram flickered once more, and vanished. The chamber fell into chaos. Some shouted in rage. Some demanded explanations. Others sat frozen, unable to breathe, but the envoy whispered to herself, her voice shaking with awe. "They're back." Above them, the star map kept flickering. More worlds burned. More sparks went red. But now, something had changed. For the first time in centuries, the galaxy knew this truth. Humanity had spoken, and the stars would never be silent again. The hologram of Earth had vanished. But its echo still shook the Galactic Council. For centuries, they had called humanity a myth. For centuries, the stars believed Earth was silent. Now, the silence was broken. Shadows over Earth far, across the void, in orbit of the blue-green planet. Shadows stirred. Colossal frames floated above the atmosphere, half-finished warships, their armored hulls bristling with cannons. Massive shipyards encircled Earth like a crown of steel. Engines thrummed faintly, their glow hidden behind layers of cloaking fields. For generations, humanity had been quiet. But quiet did not mean weak. While the galaxy ignored them, Earth had been building. The mocking envoys, when news of the signal spread, alien envoys rushed to Earth, their ships cut through the atmosphere. Landing on orbital stations to negotiate, they arrived with arrogance, sneering as they stepped into steel corridors filled with human soldiers. A scaled ambassador spat words like venom. "You waited centuries, and now you crawl back into our affairs? You think your small fleet will matter? You will only invite death." The human guard said nothing. Their visors hid their eyes, but their silence was heavier than words. The envoys expected fear. They expected excuses. What they found instead was unsettling calm. Humanity's answering the heart of the orbital command. Admiral Mara Saeed stood before the alien visitors. Her uniform was sharp, her face unreadable, her voice steady. "You came to mock us," she said quietly. "You came to measure our strength. So measure it well." With a single command, she activated the star map. The galaxy appeared in light, filled with glowing dots. But unlike the Council's red sparks of burning worlds, these dots were blue. Fleets, human fleets, dozens of systems lit up. Shipyards hidden in asteroid belts. Dreadnoughts cloaked in nebulae. Carriers resting in silent orbits, their fighters already armed. The envoys froze. Their sneers vanished. Their throats went dry. "Impossible," one whispered. "No one could build this in secret." Mara's eyes narrowed. "No one but us." The forgotten signal, low alarm, echoed through the command chamber. Officers reported with urgency. "We've intercepted a colony distress call. Coordinates locked. Signals old, originating from the system of Calveth. They've been calling for years." The envoys exchanged uneasy glances. They knew that call. Everyone did. It had been ignored, dismissed, forgotten. Mara looked at the envoys. Her voice cut like a blade. "Your council left them to die. We will not." She turned to her officers. "Ready the fleet?" Engines roared to life. Steel giants shifted position. For centuries, humanity had hidden in silence. Now their fleets would rise. Whispers among the stars across the galaxy. Rumors spread faster than light. Merchants whispered in ports. Refugees carried stories. Soldiers spoke in awe. They said Earth was gone, but I saw their ships. Hundreds of warships, thousands, maybe more. They built in silence. What else have they hidden? Some spoke with hope, others with fear, but all carried the same truth. Humanity had returned. The first fleet from orbit. The people of Earth looked up as their skies filled with fire. Warships ignited their engines, glowing bright against the night. Carriers opened, releasing wings of fighters that streaked across the horizon like shooting stars. Dreadnoughts rose from their shipyards, their cannons casting long shadows across the oceans. Children pointed from the rooftops. Elders wept. Civilians filled the streets, watching their fleets awaken after centuries of silence. One voice carried through every broadcast, every screen, every speaker. This is the first fleet of humanity. We answer the call. The fleet surged forward, leaping into hyperspace. Their course was set. Calveth, the forgotten colony. The world that had begged for help until its voice went silent. But as the human armada vanished into the stars, far beyond the rim of the galaxy, something stirred. The escaped enemy ship, the one that had survived Vera, transmitted its message. Human tactics, human weapons, human fleets, all delivered into the hands of a far greater power. In the shadows of deep space, colossal forms shifted. Their voices hissed in the dark. Humanity rises. Then, humanity must burn. The Galactic Council chamber was no longer silent, where once there had been cold stillness. Voices shouted, claws slammed against the crystal table, wings flared in agitation. The holographic star map above them glowed with a sight none had expected: human fleets in motion. Dozens of blue markers pulsed across the map, fleets leaving orbit, hyperspace trails cutting through the galaxy. Earth was no longer quiet. Earth was no longer hidden. The panicked counselors rose to their feet, shouting over one another. They build fleets in secret. Impossible. No species could hide such power. They act without permission. This is war. Others spoke in hushed, fearful tones. They saved Vera. They answered a signal none of us would. If they have fleets this large, what else have they hidden? For centuries, the Council had dismissed humanity as irrelevant. Now, their shadows filled the stars. The human envoy the chamber, lights dimmed. Static filled the air. The counselors fell silent as a hologram ignited in the center. A human appeared. A woman in dark uniform, standing tall, eyes like cold fire. She was not smiling. She was not asking. Her voice was calm, sharp, unshaken. You let colonies burn. You turned your faces away while billions died. Humanity will not. Gasps echoed across the chamber. Some counselors hissed in rage, others trembled in silence. An insectoid leader slammed his claws on the table. How dare you threaten us? Earth is a minor world. The human envoy tapped her wrist console. The star map shifted again. Recordings filled the air. Human fleets over Vera. Warships cutting enemy cruisers apart. Soldiers evacuating survivors. Children clinging to armored figures as burning cities collapsed behind them. The galaxy had turned away. Humanity had acted. The debate the chamber erupted again. They are saviors, shouted one reptilian counselor. They are conquerors, spat another. If they rise unchecked, they will dominate us all. Or perhaps they will protect us where we failed. Fear twisted every face. Some spoke of alliances, others of sanctions. A few whispered of preemptive strikes. But beneath the noise, one truth gnawed at them all. Humanity was no longer in the shadows. Spies in the dark while the council argued. Shadowy figures moved through hidden corridors. Spies whispered into encrypted channels. Their voices laced with urgency. Confirm fleet numbers, steal their designs, find their weaknesses. Some empires plotted to ally with Earth, others plotted to destroy it. All feared the same thing. If humanity had built fleets in silence, what else had they prepared in secret? Humanity's message to the hologram still stood in the center. The human envoy watching their chaos with calm disdain. We do not ask your permission, she said. We do not seek your approval. We act because you will not. Her gaze swept across every alien face. History will not remember your silence. It will remember our action. The hologram flickered. The envoy's figure dissolved into static. Only her words remained, echoing in the chamber. Shock and envy, the council sat in uneasy silence. For the first time in centuries, they felt small. They had hidden behind walls of fear, while Earth had built walls of steel. A robed elder finally whispered the question none wanted to answer. If they hid fleets for centuries, if they rose from silence with such power, how large is their true armada? The silence that followed was heavier than any argument. Suddenly, the star map pulsed red. New signals lit up at the edge of the galaxy, massive enemy fleets moving in unison. Thousands of ships, bigger than before, their course was clear. Straight for Earth, the chamber erupted once more in fear and shouting. Some cried for humanity's destruction, others begged for alliance. But all eyes stared at the red swarm on the map and across the stars. Earth's fleet was already moving. The colony of Thalon was burning. From orbit, its forests glowed like dying embers. Its cities were broken husks, drowned in smoke and fire. Enemy warships hung above the skies like executioners, their cannons raining destruction with no mercy. The galaxy watched. And, as always, the Council did nothing. But Earth did not stay silent. Arrival, the void above Thalon rippled. Blue light flared across the stars as the first human warship tore out of hyperspace. It was massive, larger than anything the colony's defenders had ever seen. Its hull was dark steel, its engines burning with neon fire. Behind it, more ships appeared, dozens, then hundreds, until the skies were filled with humanity's fleet. The invaders hesitated. Their sensors scrambled to identify the newcomers. The readings made no sense. The ships were too many, too large, too powerful. On the ground, survivors lifted their heads from the rubble. For the first time in years, hope flickered in their eyes. They came, a child whispered. The humans came. Humanity speaks on the bridge of her flagship. Valiant Dawn, Admiral Mara Sade stood unshaken. Her voice cut through the silence of her officers. Form the line. Prepare all batteries. Today, we answer, the fleet shifted into formation. Carriers opened their hangars, unleashing wings of fighters that darted across the void like sparks of light. Dreadnoughts turned their cannons, locking on to the enemy swarm. Mara raised her hand. Fire! Wrath of Earth's devoid erupted. Lances of searing blue light speared through enemy cruisers, splitting them apart in seconds. Missiles streaked through the chaos, tearing ships into burning fragments. One enemy battleship exploded so brightly it lit the colony's skies like false daylight. Human fighters swarmed, striking with terrifying precision. Enemy vessels fired back, but humanity's fleet moved as if it had trained for this moment for centuries. Shields flared, cannons roared, and with each strike, the invaders faltered. In minutes, the balance of power shifted. The skies that had belonged to the enemy now burned with their wreckage. On the ground, human dropships pierced the smoke. Landing in the ruins of Thalon's cities, soldiers in black armor poured out, their visors glowing. They lifted rubble with powered suits, dragging survivors into safety. They shared food and water, calming frightened children. Medics knelt beside the wounded, speaking softly even as fire raged around them. One soldier carried an alien child on his shoulders, whispering, "You're safe now." The survivors stared. For years they had begged the Council for help. None had come. But the humans, long silent, long forgotten, were here. The galaxy watches every action was recorded. Council chambers across the stars played the images in silence. They saw human fleets turning the tide. They saw human soldiers saving lives. They saw what they themselves had refused to do. Some counselors wept in shame. Others ground their teeth in anger. Many whispered the truth they could no longer deny. Humanity had returned. The escaping ship, but not every enemy vessel, was destroyed. Amid the chaos, one sleek ship broke formation. Smaller, faster, it tore through the battlefield, slipping into hyperspace before human cannons could lock on. On its bridge, enemy officers screamed in triumph. Transmit everything. Their tactics, their weapons, their fleet formations, send it to the masters. The ship vanished into the void, carrying with it the knowledge of humanity's return. Aftermath in Thalon, the fire slowly died. Survivors gathered around human soldiers, weeping, embracing, whispering thanks. The colony had been saved. Above them, humanity's warships floated like giants. Silent guardians in the sky. On the bridge of the valiant dawn, Admiral Mara stood tall. Her fleet had answered, her people had acted, but her eyes were grim. This was only the beginning. Far away, in the endless dark, beyond known space, the escaped enemy ship arrived at its destination. Colossal shadows stirred larger than fleets, older than empires. They listened as the recording played. Human warships, human soldiers, human victory. A deep alien voice hissed through the void. Humanity rises. Another voice growled in answer. Then humanity must burn. The darkness shifted. Engines ignited. A new fleet began to move, greater, deadlier, hungrier than before, and its course was already set. Earth, the colony of Thalon, still smoldered. Cities lay in ruins, smoke rising into the sky. But above the broken world, human fleets held their silent vigil. Dreadnoughts floated like steel mountains, their hulls scarred but unyielding. Dropships ferried the last survivors to orbit, where medics worked tirelessly. To the refugees, the humans were saviors. To the rest of the galaxy, they were something else, an awakening power. Whispers across the galaxy, news spread faster than light. Everywhere, stories of Earth's fleet filled the airwaves. "I saw them," one refugee cried. "Their ships tore through the enemy like fire through paper. They fed us. They carried our children to safety." Humanity is not a myth. They are real and they are strong. In markets and taverns, merchants whispered nervously. They built this fleet in silence. What else have they hidden? Some spoke with hope, others with fear. All carried the same truth. Humanity had returned. The councils sham in the Galactic Council chamber. Silence reigned once more. Every counselor had seen the images. Human warships burning enemy fleets. Human soldiers lifting children from rubble. Humanity standing where they had not. "They act without permission," one counselor growled, his scaled tail lashing. "They interfere where they should not." "They did what we would not," hissed another. "They saved a colony abandoned by us all." The chamber filled with bitter voices. Some praised Earth, others cursed it. But none could ignore the truth. The galaxy now looked to humanity, not to them. Propaganda of fair and distant worlds. Rival empires spread their own message. "Do not trust the humans," broadcasts warned. "They fight for conquest, not mercy. Every world they save becomes theirs." Today, Thalon. Tomorrow, your home. Posters, speeches, and broadcasts painted humanity as dangerous conquerors. And yet the people did not believe so easily. Refugees spoke louder. Survivors told their truth. They were the only ones who came. The galaxy split, half whispering fear, half whispering hope. Humanity's vow on Earth, Admiral Mara Saeed, stood in a vast hangar, surrounded by thousands of soldiers and workers. Behind her, Titanic warships glowed with fresh power, their cannons ready. Her voice carried through the station, through orbit, through every colony and ship tied to Earth. We were silent once. We watched and waited, but no more. The star map above her lit up, showing countless red sparks burning worlds still crying for help. No world will burn while we still breathe. No enemy will go unanswered. Wherever they strike, humanity will rise. The chamber thundered with cheers. Soldiers saluted. Workers pounded their fists against steel. Humanity's vow was made. The survivors of Thalon and Thalon's ruins. Human soldiers built shelters, distributed food, and buried the dead with respect. Children clung to armored hands. Elders whispered blessings through tears. One refugee painted Earth's crest on the broken walls of a fallen city. Others followed, marking their homes with the symbol of their saviors. The council had abandoned them. The galaxy had forgotten them. But humanity stood by them in the shadows, but far from the cheers, in the deep dark of unknown space. The escaped enemy ship delivered its recording. Alien masters watched the holograms. human fleets tearing through their forces. They studied the fire of human weapons, the unity of their soldiers, the sheer defiance in their voices. "They are strong," one voice hissed. "They are reckless," growled another. "They must be crushed before they rise further." Across the void, massive enemy armadas began to shift. Engines blazed. Thousands of ships realigned their course. New enemies, new plots. Back in the council, whispers grew louder. Some empires sent envoys to Earth begging for alliance. Others sent spies, desperate to steal human designs. A few began secret projects to build fleets to match Earth's. Every empire feared the same thing. If humanity could do this in silence, what could they do now that they had spoken? In Earth Command, a young officer's voice shook as he delivered his report. "Admiral, long-range sensors confirm movement. Massive signatures. Thousands of ships. Their course." He hesitated. The room fell silent. Admiral Mara's eyes narrowed. "Say it." The officer swallowed. "Their course is Sol, Admiral. Straight for Earth." Mara stood tall, her voice steady, her resolve unshaken. "Then let them come." The room trembled with determination. Across the stars, whispers spread again, sharper and louder than before. The galaxy burns. But this time, humanity is watching. In the dark of deep space, the first whispers of danger appeared. Long-range scanners lit up with red. Thousands of signatures. Heat blooms from engines the size of cities, weapons humming like storms. At first, some thought the readings were wrong. A glitch, a ghost. But as the hours passed, the shadows grew clearer. It was no error. The enemy was coming. The alarm inside Earth's orbital command alarms wailed. Officers rushed across glowing decks, their screens flooding with data. Contact confirmed. Enemy fleet detected scale, unmatched. 10,000 ships. Maybe more. The words chilled every heart. For centuries, Earth had prepared. For centuries, humanity had built its fleets in silence. But never had they faced a swarm like this. Admiral Marisol stood in the center of the storm. Her eyes locked on the star map, where a tide of red markers moved closer with every moment. "They're coming for Sol," she said quietly. Then louder, "Transmit to all fleets. The enemy is on approach." This is not a drill. The people of Earth on the ground. Sirens wailed across the cities. Families rushed into bunkers. Screens lit up in the skies showing messages of courage. "Stand strong. The fleet protects you." Children pressed against their parents, whispering, "Will we be safe?" Old veterans saluted as soldiers marched past, armored and ready. Some wept. Some prayed. But none turned away. For the first time in centuries, Earth's people looked to the heavens not in wonder, but in defiance, awakening the fleet above the planet. Steel giants came alive. Dreadnoughts powered their engines, glowing blue across the void. Carriers opened their massive bays, unleashing swarms of fighters that spread like sparks across the sky. Orbital defense platforms rotated, their cannons locking on the empty dark, where the enemy would soon arrive. The silence of orbit became a storm of movement. Fleets formed into lines, their shields flaring bright. From a distance, it looked as though Earth itself had grown wings of steel. The enemy advanced the edge of Sol. The swarm appeared. Enemy warships, black, jagged, glowing with crimson engines, moved like a single living wall. Thousands upon thousands, so many they blotted out the stars. Their weapons pulsed, their shields burned red. On their bridges, alien commanders hissed and roared. Burn their world, crush their fleets, end humanity before they rise. The swarm pressed forward, unstoppable. Doubt in the the Galactic Council. Leaders watched the live feeds with pale faces. "Earth cannot survive this," one muttered. "No world can stand against such a force. They will be erased in hours." But others remembered Vera. They remembered human warships slicing through enemies with precision. They remembered soldiers saving children while the Council looked away. "Do not." Underestimate them, whispered one counselor. They were silent for centuries. Who knows what weapons they've hidden? Calm before the fire, on the flagship Valiant Dawn, Mara walked the bridge. Around her, officers worked in silence, their hands steady, their eyes filled with fire. Through the massive viewing window, Earth spun, bilo blue, green, alive. The homeworld, the cradle of humanity. Mara's voice carried across the comes to every ship. They come for us. Let them. They believe we will break, but they do not know what it means to be human. Today, they will learn. A roar of voices answered her across the fleet. The scanners screamed, enemy fleet crossing into Sol system. The star map exploded with red, flooding Earth's skies. On the ground, civilians raised their eyes as the heavens lit with fire. Admiral Mara raised her hand. Her voice was ice and steel. All ships stand ready. The first enemy salvo cut across the void. Tearing through Earth's outer defenses in a storm of light, the battle for Earth had begun. The Sol system shook with fire. Enemy ships poured in like a black tide, their red engines glowing against the stars. Thousands of them, forming a wall of death that stretched from one horizon to the other. The first wave struck. Orbital defense stations shattered in brilliant explosions, their wreckage falling into the upper atmosphere. Cities below trembled as shock waves rippled through the skies. Still, humanity stood. The battle begins. Human dreadnoughts surged forward, their cannons firing lances of blue light. Enemy cruisers split apart, burning as they tumbled into nothingness. Carriers opened wide, unleashing swarms of fighters that streaked across the void like fiery arrows. The stars became a storm. Ships collided, shields collapsed, the heavens turned into a graveyard of steel and flame. On Earth's surface, civilians huddled in bunkers, listening to the distant thunder. Above, the sky flickered with the fire of ships dying in orbit. Admiral Mara's command on the bridge of the Valiant Dawn. Admiral Mara Saeed stood like iron. Her voice cut through the chaos. Hold the line. No ship retreats. No world falls. Her officers obeyed, their hands steady even as explosions lit the void around them. But the truth was grim. For every enemy ship destroyed, 2 more appeared. Humanity's fleets fought with fury, but the swarm was endless. A commander shouted, shields failing on the western flank. Enemy dreadnoughts closing? Another voice added, casualties mounting, Admiral. If they breach, orbit Earth will burn. Mara's jaw tightened. She knew this was humanity's darkest hour. On the ground in New York, meteors of wreckage rained down, striking towers and streets. Soldiers dragged civilians into shelters, shielding them from fire. In New Cairo, plasma bolts lit the night sky as fragments of enemy ships broke apart overhead. Children clutched their parents, whispering, "Will we survive?" One soldier, standing on the roof of a ruined building, raised his rifle to the heavens. His voice echoed across his squad. If they land, we fight them here. Every street, every home. Until the last breath, humanity would not kneel. Not now. Not ever. The breakthrough, the scanners screamed aboard the Valiant Dawn. Enemy breach on the eastern flank, dreadnoughts pushing through. Mara's eyes narrowed. If the enemy reached low orbit, Earth would be lost. Her voice dropped to a whisper. Prepare the failsafe. Her officers froze. The failsafe had never been spoken of, never even confirmed to exist. But now they obeyed without question. Earth awakens deep beneath the planet's crust. Ancient vaults rumbled. Oceans trembled. Mountains cracked open. From the ground itself, colossal towers of steel and crystal rose, glowing with white-hot energy. They stretched into the skies like spears of light, their power building with every heartbeat. The planetary defense array, it had been Earth's greatest secret. Built in silence for centuries, council watchers across the galaxy gasped as the feeds lit up. They buried weapons inside their own world. The towers fired, beams of pure light cut across the void, vaporizing entire enemy formations. Dreadnoughts crumbled into dust. Carriers exploded in waves of fire. Thousands of ships burned in seconds. The swarm faltered. For the first time, the enemy broke. Humanity's defiant secoms erupted with cheers. They're retreating. Direct hits. Entire fleets destroyed. Earth still stands. But Mara did not cheer. Her voice thundered across the fleet. This is humanity's last stand. If we fall, so does every world that still breathes. Fight with everything you have. The words carried into every cockpit, every station, every bunker. Soldiers clenched their weapons tighter. Civilians raised their eyes with hope, and across the Sol system, humanity roared back into the fight. The enemy retreated, their front lines broken by Earth's hidden arsenal. The skies above Earth cleared for a moment, but far beyond the battlefield, deep in the dark, larger shadows stirred. Fleets unlike any seen before, vast, ancient, and waiting. On the bridge of the Valiant Dawn, Mara stared at the new signals appearing on her map. Her voice was cold, steady. This was not the end. It was the beginning. The stars flickered red once more. Something greater was coming. The smoke of battle still hung over Earth. Fragments of broken warships drifted through orbit, glowing like dying embers. The skies above the blue planet were scarred, but Earth still lived. Against all odds, humanity had stood, but the war was not finished. The final push from the edge of Sol. Second wave of enemy dreadnoughts appeared. Larger than the first, glowing crimson like burning suns, they advanced in silence, weapons humming with enough power to split planets. In the council chambers across the galaxy, leaders stared in horror. They survived the first wave, one whispered, but this will end them. No world can resist such force, another muttered. Yet on Earth's flagship Valiant Dawn, Admiral Mara Said did not flinch. Bring the arsenal online, she ordered. We finished this. Earth's arsenal, across the planet. The towers of the planetary defense array pulsed brighter, their cores building to unbearable light. From deep under the oceans, more weapons rose, colossal cannons hidden for centuries, their barrels glowing as they breached the waves. In orbit, sealed hangars opened, releasing ships no one had ever seen. Sleek black cruisers, bristling with weapons, their engines burning white. Humanity's true arsenal, revealed at last. Council spies watching the broadcast could only whisper. They were never gone. They were waiting. Humanity strikes, the enemy fired first. Crimson beams cut across the void, slicing asteroids apart, tearing through shields. Dozens of human ships shattered instantly. But this time, Earth answered in full. The towers fired as one. Blinding lances of white light tore through the swarm, burning holes straight through dreadnoughts. Entire formations dissolved in a single strike. Human fleets surged forward. Dreadnoughts unleashing firestorms, fighters swarming like sparks of vengeance. For every human ship lost, 10 enemies burned. The void itself seemed to shake under the fury of Earth. The galaxy watches on alien worlds. Crowds gathered around giant screens. Refugees, soldiers, and leaders watched with wide eyes as humanity unleashed its fury. Children gasped. Elders wept. Entire species whispered the same words. They stood. They fought. They rose. The Galactic Council sat frozen in shame. For centuries, they had done nothing. Now, before their very eyes, humanity did what they had feared to do. The end of the swarm, one by one. Enemy dreadnoughts exploded into silence. Carriers broke apart, their wreckage raining across the void. The swarm that had once blotted out the stars collapsed into burning fragments. At last, the skies cleared. Earth stood victorious. On the bridge of the Valiant Dawn, Admiral Mara looked out at the wreckage. Her officers cheered, soldiers wept. Civilians on the surface filled the streets with cries of joy. For the first time in living memory, the galaxy knew hope. Humanity's message transmission spread across every channel. Every world, every corner of the galaxy, Admiral Mara's face appeared, calm and resolute. You let worlds burn. You chose silence. But humanity rose to fight. Her voice was steady, carrying like a blade through the stars. We do not seek empires. We do not seek crowns. We seek only this: no more worlds abandoned. No more silence. Humanity will act when others will not. The words echoed across billions of screens. And for the first time, no one dared to laugh at the name of Earth. The galaxy celebrated. Refugees painted Earth's crest on their homes. Survivors carried human banners. Even counselors bowed their heads in awe, but far beyond the borders of known space. In a darkness older than empires, signals pulsed. Strange, heavy, ancient, something greater than the swarm had been watching. And in that endless void, a voice whispered, "Humanity rises. Soon we will rise too." The stars flickered. The silence deepened. The war was not over, but one truth now burned brighter than all others. When the galaxy did nothing, humanity rose to fight.